Then rahimahullah is going to mention the fada'iluhu, and we said that the fada'il are fadila and mustahab and the mandub all have the same meaning, means the virtuous acts of ablution. He mentions the first one and he says al-bidayatu bi ghusl najasati. First thing that is mandub during al-ghusl is that a person should begin, and this is for a person who's in the state of janaba or a woman after her menses, to remove all the impurities. For example, if she has blood on her midsection, or a male after having sexual intercourse, to remove all the sperm and all other impurities, to remove them. So you can say in general it's mustahab to start your ghusl, start by washing between your knees and your navel, because in most cases, and the crotch area, because in most cases this is where the impurities are going to be. So one of the fada'il, one of the virtuous acts of ghusl is to remove the impurity. Then he says ثُمَّ الذَّكَرِ فَيَنْوِي عِنْدَهُ. Here there's something important. When a person washes to remove the impurities, they can also have the intention that they're starting their ghusl. But the best place for the male to make his intention for ghusl is when he's washing his midsection, because when he's washing his midsection, if he makes the niyyah there, when he's done, after he's done that, then he doesn't have to touch it. The reason why they say it's mustahab for him to make his niyyah at that time, because if he starts his ghusl from somewhere else and he makes the intention, if he touches his private part during the time that he's making ghusl, then he will lose his ablution. Because according to the Maliki method, if a person were to make ghusl, then making ghusl is sufficient for a person's ablution. If that ghusl is wajib, for example, you're in the state of janaba, and then you go and you make a ghusl, then that ghusl is sufficient for you to pray salah with, because it's sufficient for your wudu, because we say the greater purity covers the smaller impurity. So for this reason they say it's mustahab for a person to start after removing impurities, to start his ghusl washing his private part. In terms of a woman, it doesn't necessarily apply according to the mashhur opinion, because the mashhur opinion for a woman is if she touches her private section, and if she touches her private section, it doesn't nullify her wudu. And so that's the meaning of Al-Akhdari when he says ثُمَّ الذَّكَرِ فَيَنْوِي عِنْدَهُ. Then he should wash his private part, midsection, and have his intention of ghusl at that time. Then he says ثُمَّ أَعْضَاءِ الْوُدُوءِ مَرَّةً مَرَّةً. The word here marratan, for those who understand Arabic, just means to do something once. Here Al-Akhdari is telling you, according to the Maliki madhab, when we make a ghusl, when we start our ghusl, we should wash all of the limbs of wudu first. So basically, we're going to make a wudu first, but that wudu is not a wudu in reality. It looks like a wudu, but it's not a wudu. It only looks like a wudu. So when you're going to start your ghusl, after you wash your private part and so on and so forth, then you're going to start washing the hands, then you're going to basically make a wudu. But in this wudu, you're not going to wash your limbs a second and a third time. You're only going to wash it once, because it is not a wudu in reality. It only looks like a wudu. And the only reason why we start with washing those limbs, the scholar says, for its sharaf, because they're the honorable limbs. And how do we know that they're honorable? Is because these are the things in which we're requested to wash before we go and pray towards our Lord. And since these limbs are the limbs that we wash, and when we obtain tahara, then it becomes permissible for us to go and have a connection with our Lord. But before we wash these limbs, we're not permitted to go and have conversation with our Lord. What I mean by conversation is through prayer. And so when we say ثُمَّ أَعْضَاءِ الْوُدُوءِ مَرَّةً مَرَّةً, washing the limbs once, that doesn't mean it's a wudu. Although it looks like a wudu, it simply looks like a wudu, but the purpose of doing it is to wash the honorable limbs first. So we have removed the impurities, and then when you're going to start your ghusl, you're going to start by washing your your private parts, the midsection for a male. And then he goes on to say ثم أعلى جسده وتثليث غسل الرأس. Then a person should start washing his body. It's sunnah to wash the body starting from the top. So after you make your wudu, then you start washing the water. You start washing your body from the top, from the head all the way down to the bottom of the body. So he says ثم أعلى جسده. That's what it means by أعلى جسده, starting from the top of his body. وتثليث غسل الرأس, and washing the head 3 times. And when you wash the head 3 times, because the reason why it's considered a fadila is so that the water reaches. And don't forget that it's obligatory to make dalq, but we say washing the head 3 times in order to make sure that the water gets to the scalp. So that's another fadila with tathlithu ghasl ra'si. So if a person was to wash his hair only once or twice, then his ghusl would be sound, but he left out a fadila. Then he says وَتَقْدِيمُ الشَّقِّ جَسَدِهِ الْأَيْمَنِ, and then also start by washing the right side. So for example, you're going to start washing the body, as we mentioned from before, from the top, by washing the head, and then you're going to wash the whole right side of the body and then the whole left side of the body. So when you're making ghusl, you're going to start, when you start washing your whole body, you're going to wash the right side first and then go down and wash the left side. Then he mentions after that وَتَقْلِيلُ الْمَاءِ عَلَى الْأَعْضَاءِ, using the least amount of water in order to make a ghusl. This fact here is important, especially for us living in the West. From one of the fadilas is that a person should use the least amount of water that they need in order to perform a proper ghusl. Likewise when it comes to making ablution. And unfortunately, living in the West and picking up some bad habits, bad Western habits, we have the habit of taking showers. Now, taking a shower is considered disliked for numerous reasons. Why? Because it's excessive. If you were to add up all the water that you use to take a shower, you would see that, subhanallah, how excessive we are when we use water to make a ghusl. So using excessive amounts of water in a ghusl is disliked. So imagine the people are living their whole life making ghusl in a disliked manner because they're using excessive amounts of water. So taking showers for Muslims is something that should be avoided, because all the water, for example, when you're taking a shower, all that water that's coming out is being wasted. So for example, it's easy for a Muslim to make a ghusl with one bucket of water. And when a person takes a shower, they're at least using 10 buckets of water. And so taking a shower for a ghusl or any other thing should be avoided, and a Muslim should try to pick up the habit of having a bucket and taking a shower out of a bucket, or maybe filling the bathtub up with some types of water, but to avoid taking showers is better. And so that's why he says وَتَقْدِيلُ الْمَاءِ عَلَى الْأَعْضَاءِ. And in terms of using the least amount of water as well, the Maliki scholars mention that that's according to the person. For example, a person who's 5 foot tall doesn't, compared to a person who's 7 feet tall, for example, the amount of water that each one of them needs is different. So we use the least amount of water as possible, meaning just enough water that we need in order to make a proper ghusl. But that goes according to the person himself. Some people are skinny, some people are fat. So according to each person, then that will determine what using the least amount of water actually entails. Now, after mentioning the obligatory acts and the sunnah acts and the fada'il, he goes on to mention some issues of fiqh related to ghusl. Just to tie something from the past lesson, we mentioned in the past lesson in terms of wudu, we talked about the issue of fiqh of a person who forgets to wash a limb during wudu, what he's supposed to do. And we also talked about a person who misses a spot. So in wudu, we have 2 issues. We have missing a spot in wudu and then missing a complete limb. Here in ghusl, because there's no such thing as tartib, there's no such thing as order in ghusl. For example, in wudu we have order. Do this first, then wash this, then wash that. In terms of ghusl, the whole body is one body. And so in the mas'ala that we're going to mention, we're not going to distinguish between whether a person misses a complete limb or if a person misses a spot. The issue is the same. So in wudu, if you go back and you review, you see that the mas'ala, the issue of fiqh, differs a little bit from a person who misses a whole limb and a person who misses only a spot of his body. Here, Al-Akhdari says, وَمَنْ نَسِيَ لُمْعَةً أَوْ عُدْوًا مِنْ غَسْلِهِ. He says the issue of fiqh he mentions, whoever misses a lum'a, a spot on the body, or a limb, min ghuslihi. So Al-Akhdari here is telling you something by mentioning this. Basically, when he mentions if you miss a spot or you miss a limb, he's telling you that in this issue, in the issue of ghusl, we do not need to separate the two like we did in wudu. So that's why he says, وَمَنْ نَسِيَ لُمْعَةً, whoever misses a limb, whoever misses a spot, or عُدْوَةً مِنْ غُسْلِهِ, or misses a limb during his ghusl, what is he supposed to do? بَادَرَ إِلَى غَسْلِهِ حِينَ تَذَكُّرِهِ وَلَوْ بَعْدَ شَهْرٍ. If a person forgets to wash something during their ghusl, if they remember, as soon as they remember that they missed something, then it's obligatory on them to go right away without delay to wash it. Explaining this mas'ala, the meaning of this mas'ala is this. If making a complete ghusl, we said that fawr, we said that doing it continually before the limbs dry is obligatory. But that obligation is obligatory under two conditions: that a person remembers and that a person has the ability. So let's say, for example, if a person remembers. Let's say, for example, right now you make a ghusl and you forgot to wash your belly button, which is common. And 10 minutes before your prayer, you're sitting down drinking orange juice, for example. And then you remember, oh, I forgot to wash my belly button. If you go right away and wash your belly button, then we'll say that your ghusl is complete. Why? Because of the fact, since you were in the state of forgetfulness, then you were not making fawr wasn't obligatory. Yani having continuity in your ghusl wasn't obligatory because you were in the state of forgetfulness. And people who are in the state of forgetfulness, then the responsibility of acting according to the Sharia is lifted because of they're in the state of forgetfulness. So if you were to go right away at the time of remembering, even if after, and Al-Akhdari says, وَلَوْ بَعْدَ شَهْرٍ, even after a month, even after a year, we're not going to look at the time span. The important thing is either you forgot or you didn't forget. So if you forgot and then you go at the time you remember, you go back and you wash that spot, then we'll say that washing is sufficient for the completion of your ghusl. And as you know, you should when you go back to make that washing, obviously you have to have the intention that you're completing your ablution. But let's just say you're drinking a glass of orange juice and you say to yourself, okay, when I finish this glass of orange juice, I'll go wash my belly button. Then no. Then in this issue, your ghusl becomes nullified and you have to make a complete ghusl after that all over again. So in order for your ghusl to be valid in this case, in this issue that we're talking about, at the time that you remember, you have to go back and wash it as soon as you remember. And the simple rule behind here is this. We said that it's obligatory for a person to be to do his obligatory, to do his ghusl continually without any delay. So, and we also said that that's a condition that is only obligatory if a person remembers. So if a person forgets, then the obligation is lifted from him. So as soon as he remembers, then the obligation comes back. So since the obligation comes back, then he must go right away and wash that limb, or wash the spot that he missed. If he doesn't, then he left what was obligatory on him, and so therefore his ghusl becomes nullified. So Al-Akhdari mentions, وَمَنْ نَسِيَ لُمْعَةً أَوْ عُدْوًا مِنْ غُسْلِهِ, whoever misses a limb, a spot or a limb from his ghusl, badara ila ghaslihi. Badara means that he has to go back. That he has to badara, he has to go towards without any delay. Badara means to go towards something without any delay. Badara ila ghaslihi. Then he has to go right away to wash that spot that he missed. Hina tadhakkurihi, at the time that he remembers. Walau ba'da shahrin, even if he remembers after 1 month. And then he says, وَعَادَ مَا صَلَّى قَبَلَهُ. He also mentions here, and he must repeat whatever he prayed before his thing was complete, before his ghusl was complete. So for example, if a person made a ghusl and then they prayed dhuhr, and then they remembered at the time they were drinking orange juice that they forgot to wash their belly button, they go right back, they go directly without any delay, they wash their belly button, and then they repeat their dhuhr prayer. He then goes on to say, وَإِنْ أَخَّرَهُ بَعْدَ ذِكْرِهِ بَطَلَ غُسْلُهُ. And then he says, وَإِنْ أَخَّرَهُ بَعْدَ ذِكْرِهِ. And if he delays after remembering, meaning he delays to go back and wash, بَطَلَ غُسْلُهُ. Then his ghusl becomes nullified. Everybody those who know Arabic should pay attention here, because in your text it might say بَطَلَ غَسْلُهُ. Correct it with batala ghusluhu, because the difference between the word ghusl with a fatha, with a mark on the top of it, ghusl means simple washing, but the word ghusl is the word for the form of the washing, the ritual washing that we make as a form of ibadah. So the meaning of ghusl, which is present in the first word when he says badara ila ghaslihi, then he must go towards washing that spot that he missed. That's okay. But when we're talking about batala ghusluhu, then we're talking about the actual act of worship, of the ritual washing, and so it should be read with a dhamma and not a fatha. Then Akhdari is going to go on and mention another mas'ala, that's another issue of fiqh that's related to this issue, and he says, فَإِنْ كَانَ فِي أَعْضَاءِ الْوُدُوءِ وَصَادَفَهُ غَسْلُ الْوُدُوءِ أَجْزَأَهُ. For example, let's say the limb that you missed during your ghusl was an arm, or just happened to be where one of the places of ablution is. He said, if a person were to go back and make wudu and happen to pass over the limb that he missed during ghusl, then that's sufficient for him, for his ghusl to be sound. So for example, let's say I remember that I missed the arm. So as soon as I remember, I go to the wudu area and I make a wudu. Then that's considered sufficient. Why? Because I'm going to end up washing my arms. I'm going to end up washing my arm and passing my arm over the area in which I missed, and so that is considered sufficient according to the Maliki method.